So, if you're tired of the whole no pain, no gain message from the diet industry, then you are in for a treat. This week, I share the wonderful news that enjoyment, not pain, is actually the best health strategy for you, for your weight, and your relationship with food, and actually all other areas of health as well. So, welcome to Joyful Eating, episode 197. So, today we're talking about why enjoyment is your best health strategy. But before we get to that, the best bite I had, gosh, so many good bites. Actually, you know what I wanted to share with you guys is I actually just one of my habits is on Saturday. I love cheese, right? So on Saturdays for lunch, usually I like have like a cheese of the week, and I'll have like one or two cheeses. I usually have some, veggies with it and like boiled egg or so just to give it some protein, but like the highlight is always the cheese. And usually I have the cheese with some sliced up pear and or nuts and or pickles. And this, like the most recent one, I bought this beautiful, I think it's my favorite blue cheese. So it's an Irish farmhouse cheese called Cashel Blue. So probably one of the most famous Irish cheeses. And yeah, like it just had that perfect balance of like piquancy, sweet, like creaminess, but yeah, like that sharpness from the blue as well. And then I had it with like sliced pear, and it was just so good. Yeah, so more blue cheese in my future. Anyway, so plan for today is first I'm going to share the story behind my unexpected discovery. And then I'm going to share with you why enjoyment actually is the best health strategy and how to implement the enjoyment strategy. And then I've also got a mistake that I often see people make. So I'll share that with you so you can avoid that one. And then I've got a bonus tip and then also a fun experiment for you to try this week when we get to the end. So basically, what happened in terms of me and my enjoyment journey was years ago, I was reading one of Nigella's books, and she was talking about her process for ordering when she goes to restaurants. And she said, she's like, I'm such a pain to eat with because she goes through each item on the menu and she actually pauses and imagines what it's going to be like to eat that and like how enjoyable is it going to be and what's going to bring. And so she goes through and then she decides based on what's going to be the most enjoyable, what's going to bring the most pleasure. And I realized that, at the time, I realized I haven't done this for a long time, but I used to read menus looking at what's going to be the healthiest option and actually not allowing for pleasure. And so after reading that Nigella book, Nigella's idea, I decided to start experimenting with what if I actually make my choices around food more around what's going to taste good to me, like what's actually going to be really enjoyable. And what happened was is that I actually like it just made everything so much easier, and like it was just so much more fun to approach food from this way. And also I felt like it improved my relationship with food and it improved my satisfaction, and so it actually helped me maintain my weight or manage my weight by focusing more on enjoyment. So let's go into like the why enjoyment actually is the best strategy for your health. And basically, first of all, because it's fun, like enjoyment, way more fun than pain, right? So it's focusing on what lights you up, what you enjoy is like it's enjoyable. Like, hey, we want to do that. But also like from like an evolutionary perspective, like if you think about it, like we're actually wired to like it's in our interest, so it's survival of the fittest and all that, to to eat and to perpetuate like our and to be the healthiest versions of ourselves so that we can have healthy offspring and perpetuate the species, right? So when we are so we actually have there's an evolutionary reason why we get pleasure from food. And it's so, like, I think that that plays into it. It's that when we tune into that enjoyment, when we tune into that pleasure, that's what we like, that's how we're wired. Like, we're here, like, we've been rewired to, like, respond to rewards rather than to respond to pain. So that's one of the reasons why. Then and the next and I think, like, if you think about it from the most practical reason why is because when we, like, tune into enjoyment, we're actually able to feel way more satisfied than if we aren't enjoying the food that we're having. And I know this to be so true. Like, and when you do the experiment at the end that I'm going to share with you, you'll feel that yourself. Like, that when you like let yourself enjoy whatever it is and you're immersed in it and you appreciate it, then all the time. Like you'll get to this point where you feel satisfied. Whereas if you're not enjoying the food or you're not paying attention to it and you're eating with distractions or you're eating something because you think you should because it's healthy and like you don't feel satisfied at the end of that like and so that drives you to overeat like because you're looking for more and more, whereas by tuning into enjoyment and letting yourself get pleasure from what it is that you are eating, it's mad. Like it just, this satisfaction comes in where you feel calm and you're like, oh yeah, that's enough, that's all I need, great, and you move on with your day and you're not obsessing about food. Like it's so good. So yeah, this the satisfaction piece is really key. And when we feel satisfied, we're ended up eating less. And so, of course, when we're eating less, that has a knock on effect to our weight and, like, particularly over the long term. Another reason to focus on enjoyment and slowing down and savoring your food is like it does help with digestion. So, from that health perspective, like, I haven't looked at the research on this, but I'm sure like the one of the first parts of digestion is chewing, like, and actually the saliva interacting with the food in our mouth. So if you're just shoveling down, you're missing out on that and you're causing problems for your digestion later, which of course, if gut health is so important for overall health, as we know, it's like something that's been more and more reported on. So yeah, that's another reason why enjoyment is a great strategy, because it's going to give you a healthier gut. um, and also, like when we're focusing on enjoyment, like helps us break out of that restriction, binge, guilt, shame, like awful cycle of like denying ourselves and then going mental with something and then pulling it back and being in this all or nothing eating phase. Like by giving ourselves that enjoyment every day, we don't have that desire. Like it tones down that desire to be overeating indulgent food, because we're getting pleasure and we're getting enjoyment from the food that we are having. And then finally, like there's a lot here. I know there's so many layers to the enjoyment piece. Um, and this goes for like enjoying the food, but also like other aspects of health, like doing things that feel enjoyable. So rather than, if you hate running, like forcing yourself to run, like not enjoyable, or you forcing yourself to go to a gym if you hate the gym, like not enjoyable, right? So it makes it really hard to do. Whereas if you love dance and you love, so like doing a Zumba class, like that's going to be easy for you to want to keep doing it. And there's a great researcher out of Stanford, BJ Fogg, who's written a book called Tiny Habits, and he's all about behavior change. And that's one of his core tenets, is that we change best. And one of the things he's discovered from his research is like we change best when we feel good. So when we're doing things that feel good to us in the moment, then we're way more likely to keep doing them. So that's why like this enjoyment piece it's helpful for all. It's helpful for all habits. But particularly in this case, because we love to talk about food on Joyful Eating, we're applying it to food, but it can be any help, like flossing your teeth, like any healthy behavior that you want to encourage. When the more you can bring enjoyment into the actual doing of the habit, the way more likely you are to continue with the habit. And of course, if you've got good habits, then has all those knock-on effects for your health. So that's a why. So let's now talk about like how to, like how do we implement this idea of more enjoyment as a health strategy? And so this how to is specifically for food and for when we're eating. So the first step is just to like decide to give yourself that permission that actually it's okay, and actually I want to enjoy my food more, and actually set that intention. This is how I want to be like Nigella. I want to be like someone who I want to be that person who makes time and who gets pleasure from food. And you can also, while you're at it, like decide that you're going to let go of any shame and guilt around whatever you're eating as well. Like that can be that can be helpful. But yeah, we want to decide to give yourself permission. Then the next is to actually, like where possible, like plan it. Get into the habit of planning ahead, of giving yourself permission to have things that you really love. So if you really love, there's a bakery that makes the most amazing brownies in the world, like actually planning in to go to the bakery and have the brownie, like, or if you really love cheese, going to, actually planning in of like, oh yeah, Saturday's going to be my cheese day, and going to your favorite cheese shop and like choosing your cheese, and maybe choosing a couple of cheeses, but actually planning ahead, or going to a favorite restaurant, or cooking something special like on the weekends. So it doesn't matter what it is, but the cool thing is that when you plan things ahead, is that then you get to have the pleasure of anticipation. And there's research around that when we anticipate a future reward, that actually releases dopamine in our brain. So when we anticipate and think about and plan it and think about enjoying a cookie in the future, we actually get a little bit of dopamine released in the moment. So we get that extra pleasure in the moment without a single calorie like crossing our lips. Like and it's completely free too. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent of planning things in and having things that you're looking forward to. But of course, you can skip that if you want, but you're missing out. The next is like when you actually like are eating, like when you are in that environment where you're eating, is where possible, like is to eat without distractions. So focus on the food. So give yourself that gift of like some time and space where it's just you and the food. And it's fascinating to me that when I work with people, so many people like are in the habit currently of scrolling on their phone or reading something or doing work at the same time as or watching TV at the same time as they're eating. And when you're doing that, you like you of course, like if your attention is directed elsewhere, like your brain isn't able to get all the pleasure out of your eating experience. So it's so worthwhile, focusing on the food when you can. Next is to slow down. So, when we're shoveling and there's big chunks of food going through and we're eating quickly, like like there's only so much food that can interact with our taste buds. Whereas if we're slowing down, then each we can be eating the same amount of food, but the actual amount of food that interacts with our taste buds, like the surface area, is more. So we actually get more experience of pleasure and taste from smaller bites and from slowing down. So yeah, this is like, it's kind of a mechanical physical thing, but it actually does have a huge impact on the enjoyment. And so one of the tiny habits that I get people to when I'm working in the Naturally Healthy Club is just to get into the habit of like putting your cutlery down. So when you've got food in your mouth, you're not loading up the next fork to shovel it in. You're just like, oh yeah, okay, I've got food in my mouth. I'm enjoying this food. I'm gonna take my time, and then and then when you swallow, then you get your next bite ready. So slowing down, so big. And yeah, you can play around and experiment with it. Like, like taking, like you're going to try, like see what it feels like when you have a bigger bite or a smaller bite. Feels like, and also you can, like when you're eating, like experiment with like closing. Sometimes I like to just close my eyes. And so then I like block out that sense. And so I can really focus on what's in my mouth. Um, yeah, so you can really enjoy the food. Of course, you don't have to eat with your eyes closed all the time, but you can just you play around with it and just, "Ooh, what feels good to me?" And also like pausing and appreciating like the other aspects of food. So like, just if something if you've got a piece of fruit, like looking at and appreciating like the beauty of it before you're eating or even while you're eating, like just if you're just looking at your plate and appreciating all the colors or the textural contrast or whatever it is that there is to appreciate about the food, like the visuals, the smell, like we can really you can go as deep and as you like with this. And also just at the end of the day, like it's not meant to be this arduous thing. So right, just play around and have fun and experiment with your eating and see what feels good and just do more of the things that feel good and less of the things that don't. And you experiment with like, when you're chewing and you have that urge to swallow, like what happens if I just chew a couple more times? Like is there more flavor here for me or is it no, that's done? Like, and you can really get granular with this, or you can keep it light and higher level. And there's no right or wrong, right? It's just a matter of just getting curious and seeing what's there for you. And that's how we get more pleasure. So we deciding, we're anticipating, where possible, like planning things in. And then when we are eating, like actually in eating, like enjoying, setting that intention, yeah, I want to savor this and giving yourself that gift of like time with your food. Like it's so beautiful. Uh, but then, of course, the mistake that I often see people make that I want to make sure you avoid is the mistake of like the getting too perfectionist with it and thinking, oh, like, it's not okay. Like, what happens if I've got like I've got a busy day and I have to shovel my lunch in I, before I run off to a meeting. And it's like, if that has to happen, like totally no dramas. Like there's totally days where I don't have time. And so like I'm eating quickly. I try and like enjoy what I can, but I, just it is what it is. And so it's okay to have those times where you're eating for fuel. And maybe it's like every day, breakfast and lunch, it is like you're just eating for fuel and you're not really getting an opportunity to dial in the enjoyment. But maybe on the weekends, it's like that's when you do. Like it's so there's no just because you can't do it all the time doesn't mean that you don't get value from the times that you do it. So that's my one thing is like, don't no need to be perfectionistic about it. And then my bonus tip for you is, as I mentioned, like, from BJ Fogg's research, like this can be applied to any habit. So enjoyment can be applied to movement, to exercise, to meditation, to relaxation, like to any habit that you want to cultivate to help with your health or with any part of your life. Like looking for the enjoyment, looking for ways to incorporate the things that feel good to you and letting yourself feel good about them is like such a good strategy because it means then you're internally motivated to keep doing the things that feel good. And so you get that momentum of like, oh yeah, like I love my dance, I'm doing my dance, rather than being like trying to bash yourself into going to the gym all the time, right? It's just a much nicer way to live. Okay, so and I was going to share with you a tiny experiment before we go. So my experiment that I encourage you to do this week is like get two pieces of food, like the same food. So maybe like two pieces of chocolate or two, two strawberries or two cookies, whatever, and whatever feels, two pieces of cheese, two crackers, two bags of chips, whatever. Doesn't matter what the food is, but as long as it's two things of the same. And then, or it could be one cake and you slice it in half. Then I want you to like eat one where you like whatever your normal distraction is. So if you're like normally scrolling on Instagram, like pull out your phone, start scrolling on Instagram and eat it, or whatever, watching TV, whatever. So eat one where you're really distracted and you're just eating it quickly and you're not paying attention. And then the second piece, I want you to do what I just suggested. So set that intention to really savor it and enjoy and slow down and give the food your full attention and just see like how those experiences compare and also how satisfied you feel after each of them. Okay, so that's it for this week. Have fun experimenting. And if you'd like support in creating this and the other essential tiny habits to create a naturally healthy relationship with food in your body, then I'd love you to join me in the Naturally Healthy Club. So it's my 6-month coaching group, which gives you my simple, doable, proven process to create a healthy, enjoyable, there's that word again, relationship with food and your body. So you enjoy eating well automatically. It's not this struggle and you feel good in your clothes. So we enroll twice a year and we usually sell out. So to get on the wait list, just see the link in the show notes. So have a fantastic week. Have fun experimenting and enjoying, and I will see you next week.